Most intelligent people suffer for one simple reason. They assume others think the same way they do. They explain carefully. They choose words precisely. They expect logic to be met with logic, and when it isn't, confusion turns into frustration. But long before modern psychology existed, Arthur Schopenhauer identified the core mistake. Intelligence is not a shared human baseline. It is an exception. Most people do not think in concepts. They do not examine ideas. They do not challenge their own beliefs. They react. They absorb opinions the way lungs absorb air, automatically, unconsciously, without resistance. And when you expect depth from a mind built for repetition, you create unnecessary pain. Schopenhauer observed something brutal but precise. Most people are not capable of thinking, only believing. Belief requires no effort. Thinking demands structure, abstraction, and inner discipline. Belief asks, who should I follow? Thinking asks, what is actually true? Those are not the same mental processes. That's why explaining truth to the wrong person feels like shouting into fog. No matter how clearly you speak, nothing lands, and the intelligent person makes it worse by trying harder. More evidence, better examples, longer explanations. But clarity does not fix a limited cognitive structure. It only exhausts the one providing it. This is where resentment begins. You start thinking people are stubborn, dishonest, or malicious, but often they are simply incapable of operating at that level. Not unwilling, not evil, just limited. And here's the part no one wants to hear. When you keep engaging as if everyone is equal in reasoning ability, you are not being noble. You are being naive. Schopenhauer warned that intelligence is uneven by nature, not by education, not by morality, not by effort. Some minds can hold contradiction, others collapse under it. Some minds can question themselves, others defend their identity at all costs. And when you challenge identity with truth, the response is never curiosity. It is hostility. This is why intelligent people feel constantly misunderstood, why conversations feel heavy, why social life feels draining instead of nourishing. You are speaking a language most people were never wired to understand. And once you see this clearly, a shift must occur. Not arrogance, not contempt, but strategic restraint. Because the moment you stop assuming everyone can think, you begin to protect your clarity, your energy, and your peace. And that leads to a much darker realization. Most people don't resist truth because it's false. They resist it because it threatens who they believe they are. And that's where the real conflict begins. Once you accept that intelligence is rare, the next realization is even more unsettling. Most people do not form opinions through logic. They form them through emotion, and only afterwards search for reasons to defend how they feel. Arthur Schopenhauer understood this long before neuroscience confirmed it. Reason is usually a servant, not a master. People feel first, then they justify. That's why facts rarely change minds, and why truth often makes enemies instead of allies. When you present logic to someone whose beliefs are emotional, they don't hear information, they hear a threat. Because their opinions are not ideas, they are extensions of identity. To question the belief is to question them, and the human ego defends itself more fiercely than truth. This is why debates feel pointless. You bring evidence, they bring tone, volume, and certainty. You explain nuance, they simplify it into slogans. You ask why, they respond with who said it, who believes it, who agrees with them. This is not a discussion, it is tribal signaling. Schopenhauer noted that most people are incapable of separating an idea from their sense of self. So, when confronted with contradiction, they do not reflect, they react. Anger replaces analysis. Mockery replaces thought. Confidence replaces comprehension, and the intelligent person makes a fatal mistake here. They keep pushing. They believe that if they explain it just a little better, use a clearer example, slow it down, something will click, but nothing clicks. Because logic cannot override emotion when emotion is protecting identity. This is why you feel drained after certain conversations. Why you walk away doubting yourself even when you were right. You weren't defeated by stronger reasoning. You were worn down by emotional resistance. And over time, this creates a dangerous pattern. You begin to censor yourself. You simplify your thoughts. You shrink your language to avoid conflict. Not because you're wrong, but because clarity has a social cost. Schopenhauer warned that truth spoken to the wrong audience does not enlighten, it provokes. Which is why wisdom is not speaking truth everywhere, but knowing where it belongs. Not every mind is a place where ideas can land safely. Some minds reject depth instinctively, the way the body rejects poison. And when you understand this, a new rule emerges. Never argue with someone whose position was not reached through thinking. Because every word you spend is energy you will never recover. And once you see how emotional reasoning truly works, you begin to understand something far more dangerous. Most people are not wrong by accident. They are wrong by design, and that realization changes how you move through the world. Pause here. There is something far more dangerous than ignorance. It is ignorance combined with certainty. Arthur Schopenhauer understood this pattern with brutal clarity. He noticed that the people least capable of understanding complexity are often the most confident in their conclusions, not because they see more, but because they see less. A limited mind encounters fewer contradictions, fewer doubts, fewer internal conflicts, and so it mistakes simplicity for truth. This is why shallow thinking often sounds decisive, why it speaks loudly, why it dismisses nuance as weakness. Depth feels threatening to a mind that cannot hold it. When intelligent people speak, they hesitate, they qualify, they acknowledge uncertainty. When limited minds speak, they assert, they declare, they close the conversation, and socially, certainty wins. This is where many intelligent people get trapped. They assume confidence signals competence. They assume volume signals authority. It doesn't. It signals insulation. Schopenhauer observed that some people are structurally incapable of grasping ideas beyond a certain level of abstraction. Not unwilling, not lazy, incapable. Trying to push past that limit doesn't enlighten them. It humiliates them, and humiliation breeds hostility. This is why explaining complex ideas to the wrong person often leads to anger instead of curiosity. They don't feel educated, they feel exposed. So they attack the message. They mock the speaker. They accuse you of arrogance, overthinking, or manipulation. Not because you're wrong, but because you've crossed a cognitive boundary they cannot follow. This is where many intelligent people make a second mistake. They interpret aggression as engagement. They argue back. But once aggression appears, reason is already gone. At that point, the discussion is no longer about truth. It is about dominance. And the moment you stay in that exchange, you descend. You simplify your thoughts to be understood. You sharpen your tone to defend yourself. You trade precision for impact. And slowly, clarity dissolves. Schopenhauer warned that arguing with someone beneath your cognitive range does not raise them. It lowers you, not because you are weak, but because the terrain itself is hostile to thought. This is the moment where intelligence must become strategic. Not every challenge deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Not every provocation deserves engagement. Some battles are designed to exhaust you. And the truly intelligent person learns something unsettling. Silence is not surrender. It is selection. Because once you recognize which minds cannot be reached, you begin to see another painful truth emerging. Intelligence doesn't just isolate you intellectually, it isolates you socially. And that leads to the loneliness few ever talk about. Think carefully about that. There is a cost to seeing clearly, and that cost is distance. Arthur Schopenhauer understood that intelligence does not simply change how you think. It changes where you belong. The more deeply you think, the fewer people you resonate with. Not because you're superior, but because shared depth is statistically rare. Most conversations operate on repetition, stories told before, opinions borrowed, emotions recycled. For most people, this is enough. But for an intelligent mind, repetition feels suffocating. You crave nuance, contradiction, uncomfortable questions, ideas that don't resolve neatly, and when you don't find that, something inside you withdraws. This is where loneliness begins. Not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind. You can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. You can speak and feel unheard, because connection is not proximity, it is recognition. Schopenhauer warned that forcing connection with incompatible minds leads to a slow erosion of self. You simplify your thoughts to fit in, you soften your language to avoid friction, you censor insights that would disrupt the room. And over time, you forget how sharp you actually are. This is the hidden danger, not isolation, but self-betrayal. Many intelligent people choose social survival over intellectual integrity. They trade clarity for belonging. But the belonging is fragile, and the clarity never fully returns. So they feel restless, irritable, unfulfilled, not knowing why. The truth is brutal. You cannot build depth with those who fear it. You cannot share complexity with those who reject it. And you cannot be fully yourself where being yourself creates tension. This is why intelligent people often prefer solitude, not because they dislike people, but because solitude is the only place where their mind does not have to shrink. And yet, isolation is not the end goal. Schopenhauer did not advocate bitterness or withdrawal from life. He advocated precision. Choose your environments carefully. Choose your conversations selectively. Choose your companions rarely. Because compatibility is not about kindness or good intentions, it is about capacity. And once you accept that, a final realization emerges. If most people cannot meet you intellectually, then revealing yourself fully everywhere is not honesty. It is recklessness, and that leads to the most strategic lesson of all. Stay with me. At a certain level of understanding, intelligence stops trying to be seen. It starts trying to be effective. Arthur Schopenhauer understood that once you recognize the limits of most minds, your task is no longer to educate everyone. It is to move wisely among them. Most people are not guided by thought. They are guided by emotion, habit, social scripts, fear of exclusion. Their decisions are predictable. Their reactions repeat. Their outrage follows patterns. And once you accept this, something powerful happens. You stop being surprised. Surprise is the tax you pay for expecting depth where there is none. The intelligent person learns to observe instead of confront, to anticipate instead of argue, to conserve energy instead of spending it on correction. This is not manipulation, it is realism. Schopenhauer warned that honesty, when offered indiscriminately, becomes self-harm. Truth is not rejected because it is unclear, but because it is inconvenient. Most people prefer comforting illusions to accurate discomfort. So the intelligent adapt. They speak plainly when necessary. They remain silent when clarity would provoke hostility. They reveal intelligence selectively, not to hide, but to avoid resentment. Because visible intelligence often triggers something dark, envy, suspicion, quiet sabotage. Not admiration. This is why wisdom learns camouflage. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Not every conversation deserves your full capacity. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Some truths are weapons when placed in the wrong hands. And here lies the final freedom. When you accept that most people will never think deeply, you stop trying to wake them up. You stop carrying frustration that was never yours to hold. You stop asking, why don't they see it? And start asking, given how they are, how do I move best? That shift changes everything. You navigate with precision. You choose environments that nourish instead of drain. You invest energy only where it compounds, and most importantly, you let go of bitterness. Because bitterness comes from resisting reality. Peace comes from seeing it clearly. Schopenhauer's final lesson was not superiority, it was acceptance. The world is not designed for thinkers, but thinkers can still move through it with clarity, restraint, and quiet strength. And once you stop trying to save everyone, you finally save yourself. Let that settle. If this series resonated with you, you already know why. This space is for those who see beneath the surface and choose clarity over noise. Stay close. More is coming.